Welcome back to the Randy and Nick show. I almost said the Nick and Randy still.
Oh, good.
So
It's catching
that's
on.
funny.
It's catching on.
Yeah. But welcome back, everybody. And what do you know? We didn't wait months in non-end. This is hopefully now. Today's the first day of me having normality back in my life with my schedule given after the move, after family visiting. Now I can breathe. And you just timed it right. Where you're like, hey, what you doing? I'm like, literally nothing that would stop me from doing this. So
Well,
I wanted to make time for it.
thank you for making time for it, Randy. As we all like to joke around, you are a busy guy to book. So thanks for taking the time.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Is that my reputation? Is that I'm a hard man to book now?
You have been for the past month and a half. It's like, Randy,
Yeah,
are you
but
available? And
this-
you're like, no, I'm like moving across the country or something dumb. I don't know.
This was premeditated, but now at least for the next few years, this is what
That's
I have to
good.
call home, casa, and other words that mean home. So, how you doing? What's up? How you feeling?
I'm doing well. You know, I summoned this meeting because I have some pontifications to go over, and
Ooh, I love pontifications.
there's only one person in the world that I want to pontificate on, and that's you,
I'll get a towel.
Randy.
Hey, you said pontificate on, not with. So,
Well,
you know,
I'm going to be pontificating upon you and anyone listening
okay.
at the moment. So,
Yeah.
in the spirit of this show, we need to do a little bit of behind-the-scenes drama.
Oh, I know. I just saw that. Literally, as you've been very quick at uploading these things, so I think this is fair to say that if this doesn't go up shortly after making this within 24 hours, if people go to your Instagram story and watch this video soon enough, they'll see that you just shown this, and I just saw it right now before I recorded it, and I was like, that thing is DED dead.
Yeah, it is more dead than I was expecting. I don't know if you saw I posted a video on the Nick Answini YouTube channel about it as
Not yet.
well. I did a vlog. I never do those, but
I love those.
I was doing some work on the drone stuff, aerial videography and stuff, and I've just recently felt confident enough, and obviously that was not a good idea, but I was just feeling confident enough to go into full acro mode on the DJI FPV, which is there's about a dozen different safety settings. I mean, there's even like LiDAR cameras on the FPV that like stop you from doing stuff, like stop you from running into stuff, stop you from touching the ground too fast. You know, it's a very safe drone, but
And you're like, nah.
exactly. I've had about I don't know 7.5, 8 hours of flight time on this drone, which in the drone world's not a ton, but it's plenty. At 15 minutes of battery, it's a good amount of flight time.
It's the good enough syndrome.
Exactly. And so I was like, okay, I think I'm feeling confident enough because they have there's three modes that this drone can work in. There's a normal mode, which works just like the Mavic Mini that you've used and I used.
Yeah.
And it's basically a GPS drone. So if you stop touching the controls, it just hovers and doesn't do anything and waits for more input. And that's a very easy way to fly. Very, very easy. But then again, you're kind of limited on the fun things you can do. There's a speed limit on that mode with this DJI FPV of 30 miles an hour, which it feels like that's fast until you unlock the higher speed. There's a sport mode, just like there is on the Mavic Mini, but that sport mode on the DJI FPV goes up to 60 miles an hour, and that feels very exhilarating to be able to run 60 miles an hour through something. But then on top of that, there's this manual mode, and it is not easy to unlock the manual mode. You have to like dig through all of the settings and stuff. It's almost like they don't want you to use it because the manual mode.
And Nick was like, nah, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So me and a friend Cooper were messing around with it, and we figured out how to unlock it through all the software settings, and basically allows you to go upside down. You know, it full control of the drone, a full FPV experience. And I'm not an experienced FPV pilot at all, so I was dinking around with it, and I don't know, I have about maybe 40 minutes of a full FPV flight time under my belt, which is not a lot. Definitely
Yeah.
noob on the FPV side of stuff. But I was doing this shot where I was going over a lake and then up and then over and then like just like a full like loop of like ground, lake, house, sky, and then ground, but it's upside down now. And then a flip to reorient the horizon with the blue side up and the green side down. So that was the planned move. And again, so the top speed in the manual mode is like 89 miles an hour or whatever 100 kilometers an hour is in miles per hour. Yeah.
So I think that's about over 65. I think
It definitely has gone over 75. I've seen it go over 75, and it's
because I remember
it's
speed limit being like 80 or okay. So when I was in Japan, they used kilometers instead of miles per hour, so kilometers per hour.
62
and
miles
I remember,
an hour. Okay, so perhaps this drone was letting the
Oh,
speed, but
I
it
was right.
You were right. I just Googled it, or spotlighted it. Didn't Google anything. We don't do Google things on this show. Never. So yeah, I guess I was definitely speeding then. I didn't realize that. I thought it was governed, but maybe in the manual mode it removes that. But I was moving between 75 and 80 miles an hour, which is definitely fast, and things happen really fast at that speed. And unfortunately, the controller and the goggles are on two separate radios, and so you can lose connection with your goggles or your controller independently. And I lost contact with the controller. I just got a little bit too far away, and it was in the middle of my upside down thing. And in the full FPV mode, there aren't these safety nets that stop you and hover you and all that fun stuff. So after it lost contact with the controller, it did try to go into a safe mode of just hovering, but since it was upside down, it didn't have enough altitude to complete the flip after the delay of figuring out that it wasn't connected to the RC controller anymore. And so I watched on the goggles in horrifying detail as it started getting closer and closer, and the frames dropped or the bit rate dropped to like squares. You could count the squares, and then it just froze on the one frame, and you could see the shadow on the ground of the drone, and I was just like, rip.
Wrong key. You get the point.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, so I was like, rip, bummer. So I went out to collect it, and I was expecting it to have minor damage because people have said this drone is surprisingly sturdy, which I've knocked into a few things in the past, and it was surprisingly sturdy.
But Nick was up for the challenge.
Yeah.
Man.
Sad.
That sucks, man.
Yeah.
Old Nick habits die hard sometimes.
I didn't eat it into the floor this time.
No, you didn't eat it. Yeet!
Yeet.
That
so
sucks, man.
Thankfully, there's like this refresh program that DJI does, and you can have it replaced twice in the first year for free. So.
Hey, really?
Hopefully, I should be good, but online they were saying it takes a couple months sometimes for them to
Hey,
send it
man.
out and stuff. So thankfully,
At
in
least
the
you have
interim,
the-
I have the
you got the Mavic.
Mavic Mini, and we'll continue all the stuff that I need to do professionally and for fun too.
Cool, man.
But yeah, so that was the first moment of today, and that got me thinking, what am I doing with my life? And then I was like, I need to call Randy.
All right. Well, I have a sad thing that happened today myself.
Okay. What's up?
I'm looking for the screw that I was using, and maybe I have it down. No, I don't know where it's at, but I'll pause for the cause for it. I'm going to use a different one that I was trying out earlier. This screw right here. There we go. Yeah, this screw right here. I got an IKEA version, so something that's uses the metric system, not an American version of it. Yeah, which is most
Not
of the world.
Freedom units.
Yeah, not the freedom units. This is the metric. But this particular one is actually an American one where it went by inches and stuff. So this is why I can't find the one that I actually got from IKEA. I'm trying to fix. I can't even put it in shot. My clicker that's I mount to underneath my desk.
Uh-oh.
To
Go up and down.
and I can't find it. So I went to IKEA and I got what I Googled was to be the right one, and I actually pulled up the manual for the desk online, and they said you need this one. So I went to a box and I found the screw, which for the sake of storytelling is about this size right here. Well, this size is the wrong size because I punched almost 2 holes through my desk.
Oh no! Through the top?
Yeah. Yeah, I stopped it before it happened, but now I got 2 little things that look like this. 1, 2. So I've been taking hammers, but it's right there. I see it. I'm sad. And
Not a good day.
so I'm definitely nothing like what happened with your drone, but I was bummed out. I was like, I'm upset. that sucked because I like this desk and now it got two very noticeable welts that I try to hammer back in, and it's smooth enough. It was worse before, but it's there. It's noticeable, and I'm like, all right, it is what it is, and so I'm upset about it. And then so it got me thinking, what am I doing with my life? And no, that was a joke. I was just mocking you.
Okay, yeah, that basically is the joke.
What am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
No, I ended up writing music.
Tell me about this.
Actually,
what music are you working on? What is new in the world of Randy? You have been
all right, so we did talk about it last week. So for the sake of showing progression,
2 weeks. I think.
No, didn't we do it last week?
Last week was Dub Dub. We did it right before Dub Dub.
Interesting.
Was it? I don't know. Maybe not. I thought it was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it feels like. Anyway, well, last time we talked about it, I said I was working on a little secret project with, because we were talking about like how we make acquaintances and friends with what starts off as fans, and then we get to know them. You with Scott, me with Eva, and then also Simon is who I'm working with now on a song, and he took the liberty of actually writing. As of right now, I don't know if I'm gonna do anything with it, and I might not, just to let him have his DNA in the thing.
Yeah.
He took the liberty and wrote all the instrumental stuff. So we are working to try it out to see how this works. We're doing a cover right now.
Ooh.
And it is it's the original song is very like industrial in the sense that it's like it's heavy. It has a lot of noises that feels very robotic. But the one that Simon wrote is on YouTube. They actually this band put out an orchestral version of it.
Ooh.
And oh my goodness, in my opinion, and I stand by this, nothing goes better with orchestral work than rock music. There's something about this mix of using drums and guitars over, strings and percussion and all these things that it's so cute. Like it feels like I'm in a room with like 50 people. Even and so because I punched 2 holes through my desk, I was upset. I'm like, oh, I found the screw. Yeah, here's one of them. So here's the screw that made it all the way. This little sucker right there to pierce its way right through. So this is too big. Anyway, so because I was agitated, I decided to go into my little vocal booth that I finally established in my new office.
That's
and
exciting.
I started working on vocals, and the song has some soft parts and some loud parts, and I was like, yeah, I feel like laying out some loud parts right now because I'm aggravated. So I did that, and I was like, all right, this is a good concept, and I sent it over to Simon, and then shortly afterwards you texted me. So that's what I've been working on. However, there's a song I've been working on that you've seen. I've been documenting like the progression of it, and as of right now, I have Derek helping me with some of the lyrics, and I have 2 versions of the song. I'm gonna break the fourth wall for a second, Nick, and I'm just gonna talk to our three listeners. Derek, if anyone doesn't, I just said a name that nobody knows. If you guys don't know who Derek is, Derek was the other founding member of Time After Ashes when I had that project going. So it was me, Derek, and Emilio. I've talked about Emilio. I think he's been referenced in a few things. If not, people know him. He does a lot of guitar work.
Good guy.
And Derek, he's very sweetheart. He's a very, very kind soul. So Derek is
of the friends that you have that I've now stolen, Emilio's my favorite.
I hope Jordan does not watch this. Now Jay's gonna cut this part and send it to him. Oh my god! All right. Anyway, so yeah, not Derek. Emilio. That guy's a brother to me. Actually, he's very much a brother to me because he's a brother in arms because he was in the Marines as well.
Yeah.
So he's more of a brother in many ways except blood. But blood is not the only outlining factor of what you consider family. So, and one of the other people who's like a brother to me is Derek. And Derek has always been more of a behind the scenes kind of guy, not like a ghostwriter. Just he's present when he's ready to present something. He makes himself known. Whereas I like to document the behind the scenes and do stuff like that. Derek is the type of guy. He's like he reveals himself when there is something to showcase. He's more of a put my money where my mouth is type of a thing, and he just does something when it's there.
That's cool.
so I have a song out right now on my YouTube called Transitions, and if anybody's listened to it, I'm one half of the song and Derek's the other half of the song, and so this is where he reveals himself when we have something to show. I've been writing this song that I don't have a name yet. That I actually started when you were in my you were the only person in my live stream last time I live streamed, and I started working on the very early samples of it, and you were like, this sounds good, and then you're like, hey man, I got it. I'm like, all right dude, I'll catch you later. And then the song progressed into this big old thing that you were like, whoa, like you heard it later, you're like, oh my god. I'm like, yeah. So I've been working.
I guess I'm a little confused which song this is.
The one that I've just been calling part 1 demo writing, and then that one is like writing. Like I'm just, I don't have a name of it for it yet.
Okay.
There's no name. I've called it Wings, Home, Lacroix, because that's an inside joke between like Grant and Simon and everybody. There's all these words that mean nothing, that have nothing to do with the song, but I've been writing music on it. But this song is turned into something. If I was to make a one-man orchestral version of something, it'd be something like this, where there's a lot of things happening, where it feels like there's a lot of people and elements involved, but it's just me. So the juxtaposition of something that Simon was working on, which he turned it into an orchestral version, which sounds like I'm in a room with 50 people. This one on the electronic side sounds like that, but it's not like overpowering with it's not distracting. So that song, I've progressed pretty far into it, and so I have a version with Derek singing over it, which I might showcase at some point, and then I have another version that I've been writing to, and I'm trying to find a way, can I blend our two versions? Nice. So we'll see, because what's weird about this move for me is I can't work with people. Like, I normally have Emilio or Derek in studio with me here in Lifetime, and now that's not really going to be the case. So I've been talking with Derek as recent as like this morning, actually, where we're talking about what gear he needs so he can record in his in his home and send me stuff, and so we could still be functional with bouncing ideas back and forth. And likewise with Emilio, and now I'm tinkering with things with Simon as well, which is cool. So I like doing these baby steps right now because it's getting me back into the routine and the flow of working again, which I need and I want desperately. And I miss streaming, to be honest, too.
We've been missing the Hump Day show for about 4 months now, so
it's coming. It is coming. Now, hence why I wanted to build the set almost similar before. Hump Day show is going to come back. It's going to be.
You heard it here first, folks. You heard it.
Yeah, it's going to come back. It was never going to be like a 1 month thing and that was it. It was just, it's like, oh, we got to get ready to leave now. So that was the thing. But it's going to come back, and I'm going to make it less like how I did the, Louder with Crowder version, and more unique to me. But it's going to have the same elements of like covering subjects for this week and stuff like that. And I always want the core of it to be very back and forth, but in a way that if nobody was interacting with me, the show can still carry on just fine. So Hump Day Show is going to be something fun. I'm going to turn into more fun, quirkiness, and if I can obviously incorporate more skits like what we did with the Everybody's a Musician skit, I'm 100% going to keep doing that too. And things will continue to be featured on the Hump Day Show. So any leaks or exclusives, I will always try to put it on Hump Day Show first, and then later release it. So that way there's a bit of an incentive of things. I had an idea, had I started the production of it sooner, but I always wanted to do it at the beginning of the year. I wanted to tease, or at least do a trailer of our series, whatever series we're on now with the podcast. Yeah, so when you and I did all the filming and stuff like that, I wanted to tease it on a Hump Day Show, but at that time, Hump Day Show was not actually finalized on how I was going to do, but we had already finished doing all the filming that December, so it was not really going to work out that time. But things like that, like things I was like, hey, I'm working on something cool, a passion project, if you will. Let me showcase it here, and let's then just kind of go with it. And then the show has always been about covering news that interests me. Staying within theme of obviously music and tech and things like that, but I wanted to bring it back in a more fun, less like this and more of a that version that you do. So that way it's entertaining, because when you're a one-man show, you need to be very entertaining. and that's one way to do it. And I've actually honestly entertained the idea of like bringing in guests, almost like a late night thing or a co-host or whatever. But then it's like, it's such an early phase of that. How can I make it work that's clean for a live stream? I can obviously be like, hey, Nick, let's do this thing like we're doing right now, but we're recording this, so we have a time to mix it in Final Cut and then, or at least combine it and then send it out. Doing it in live on a live stream, I don't know if I have the proper tools for that yet. So things that I'm taking around. If there's a way I can make it work that doesn't look like, you know, a FaceTime call, and or you see the Skype logo right there, you know, and it doesn't sound
like
hey,
any
what's going on
in 2020 ever.
Right. If I could do less of that and make it feel more like we've put time into the quality of it, then there's something to bounce off of there. So, that's what I've been thinking about.
How do you collaborate with other music creators remotely? Like, how are you and Simon, like, just like pass the Logic project between each other, or like, because I feel like you get real lost on the iterations of, you know, which version you're on or who's working on it or whatever.
It depends on the person, to be honest. Okay. It depends on the. Okay, I'll start with Simon since he's the most recent, and then I'll give you a few others. Simon just sent me. He sent me the stems in a separate folder. He put everything in a Google Drive folder. He sent me the stems, at least his finalized mixed and mastered version of the stems, so I can go and he said, hey, if you want to mix it yourself and try it, then here are the stems. But he also sent me a combined final instrumental that's a mixed version and a mastered version, or I'm gonna read because I think I'm getting my verbiage wrong. It is where is it? I had it somewhere here. Anyway, but he sent me two. He sent me the mastered version, which is done, and then he has like the final mix version. So there's different steps that happen between mixing and mastering, and then he also sent me a folder with all the stems. What I did is I just pulled down all the stems and I put them in Logic, just so that way if I wanted to tinker with it, I would. But I think I'm either the song's rubbing off on me how he mixed it, or I never had an issue with it, so I think I'm just gonna stick with it anyway. So with him, he wrote everything first and he said, hey, here you go. This process is easier because it's a cover, so the blueprint is the original song that we can reference. So there's less room to wiggle because it's a pretty clear path because we're just covering a song, but it's all done by us. So that part's a little bit easier. Last year when I did, was it last year? It was last year, yeah. Oh, it's coming up. The anniversary's coming. Ooh, nice. Last year when I did Halo, my friend Brandon. He's the Apple Apple corporate guy who lives out in Austin. He's also a musician. He's a guitarist for his church, and so he's always, you know, on stage playing and stuff like that. And what him and I did is because he's such an Apple fanatic guy, he was not more by the book, but the way he liked to work is that we did send the project file back and forth, and it actually got mixed. It got messy for a second because there was different versions where I had Halo, and then I sent it to him, and then he sent back, and it was like Halo Randy, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's how we're doing it. So then Halo Brandon, and then Halo Randy 2.0, and I was like, oh, okay, this is getting confusing, but we're still working off the same project file, so I have a record of each time I touched it, what that stage was at, or at least I have the record of every time it came back to me, and then after I had enough of his work on it is when I then just from there I finished track. I recorded the final vocals for it, and then the song was done. So in that version, we traded back and forth. People I am working with, and I have been working with that live overseas. For example, I got a guy I'm working with. He lives in the Netherlands, and he we use WeTransfer, WeTransfer.com or something like that, and that it's a temporary it's a website that lets you transfer lossless audio files, and all you need is the link. Like, hey, Nick, give me your email. Got your email. Here's my email, and you're gonna get an email from WeTransfer saying you got a file ready to download from Randy, and so then you would click on it, and then that's that. So I've done that, and that one is a mix of covers and original music. So what they'll do is they'll just send me a full instrumental, or at least my part. They won't send me the whole song. Hey, here's your part. And so I would sing over it, or I would rap over it, or I would do something over it, send it back, and then they would kick it back that way. And so it's just one file going back and forth. So there's many ways that I kind of work with people that way, and it's fine. But it's also I like working in the moment. If I'm like spontaneous, hey Nick, let's go upstairs and record something type of spontaneous. I work best off of that, but I'm also flexible. So there's many ways I like to collaborate with people musically. And then I also did another one. The last example was I did a project and I put a YouTube video out saying, hey, help me finish this. And I just provided the stems in a drive. And then I was like, all right, do something with it. And then these guys would just DM me a Google Drive link or a file directly. And so that's the last way. So there's no one way of doing it. As long as it's always lossless, there's no wrong way of doing it. Because the moment you start making an MP3 and you start compressing it, each time you send it back, it gets more compressed, more compressed, more compressed, more compressed. And until it's like a thin little, I've had that happen.
Kind of like that
I've done it
YouTube
myself.
compression thing. Like Marquez uploaded that video 1,000 times or whatever.
Yeah, it gets muddied in that sense. And I don't want to do that. So yeah.
Cool.
That's how we do it.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you're cooking some stuff up there, which is really good. Good to have Randy back.
Okay, so I'll tell you, and only you, because obviously no one else is listening.
No one listens to the show, so you're good.
I'm struggling with something. One thing. There's one thing that's ready to launch right now.
Ooh.
And it's a song. Ooh. But the thing is, I have 2 or 3 songs. You've heard one of them because you caught my secret download when I released it. I was like, all right. Like, this is one of those things that's going to go away. I'm struggling to release a few singles and then just that be that. Or if I should make an EP. And it's such a silly thing to struggle about, but these things kind of matter. They matter in the sense of like, how are people going to play the music? Do I want it to have a type of theme, which there is a theme to it, or do I just want to put out singles and make it feel like it's more consistent, or does it even matter? And
or am I overthinking this?
The amount of because you know how I am. I can't just put something out. I like to put Easter eggs. I like to make you deep dive into things, and so I have these ideas that are bouncing in my head with it. But I have right now 2 complete songs ready to go, and if I do one more, which I'm working on kind of right now, if I put that out right now, that would be a 3-song EP. Cool. Or I could put out one song right now, another song next month, another song a month after that, and then maybe make an album. I don't know. But this first step is important because it's the first. This is my G4 cube because this first song is going to define Randy Vasquez, the artist channel on Spotify, Apple Music, and all, for streaming. That's an actual song. That's me singing and performing. It's not an instrumental. It's not a stream song. This is a full-fledged song. And this is important because this is going to set the tone of what I have to offer. So I'm between a rock and a hard place because if I do a single, is it a big enough thing to matter? If I do an EP, I need to there's certain things I have to do to make it fit. So that's what I'm secretly struggling on. So I am back. I'm working, and now that I'm not entertaining family anymore, I've been sitting in my office today thinking, like, how do I want to approach this? And then I ended up procrastinating and putting a hole in my desk. So that kind of just ruined my last 3 hours.
Oh, well, it sounds like you got some good angry vocals out of it. So maybe that wasn't a complete loss.
I'll wait to see what Simon has to say about that.
We'll see what Simon declares.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever been so passionate about something that you just can't stop thinking about it?
Yeah.
I have this problem.
Is it another G4 cube?
It's not a G4 cube moment, which is even kind of more exciting. I had this exact same feeling with the G4 cube, where like I felt like I needed to do it I obviously did the M1 Mac Mini inside the G4 Cube, and then before I did that, I was burning inside for like 3 weeks before I did it, and then I finally did it, and it performed well algorithmically, but more importantly, it was something that I got to see from start to finish kind of grow from like this inception of an idea at like 11 o'clock at night to like this thing that I'm quite proud of. Although I've seen that video so many times that I'm sick and tired of listening to it. To tell the story of this amazing computer, we need to go back to the beginning. I've heard that way too many times. Just like autoplay.
That's okay.
Anyway, I'm currently having this feeling about Starship content, and it's probably pretty obvious for anyone paying attention to me that my Twitter has basically become obsessed over Starship and space news. And I've always been excited about this, but what feels different this week, I went down to Texas for a conference this last weekend, and did a little bit of work there too, and had some fun. But that was up in the Dallas area, and anyone who knows Texas, it's a big state, and Starbase, where they have the all of the SpaceX stuff going on, that's way down in Brownsville, which is like 9 hours south. And so I didn't really make that whole big long drive all the way down there. But I'm to the point where like I should have done that. I am really regretting not just driving down there the other day. And so, yeah, I've been. There's so much content that I have like this little note of like pieces of content that I want to start making. An example of stuff which I don't think is covered right now really well in the Starbase community. Is like just the sounds of Starbase. What does it sound like? There's plenty of people taking pictures and videos, and there are some live streams that do have like a small audio component, but just like, what does it sound like to be there? I think that is a really interesting thing. The more I've been thinking about it, the more I'm consumed about this idea of like, what does it sound to be like? What does it sound like to be like a rocket factory, where they're just making rockets outside? The live streams that I have heard and seen and videos I've watched, it's just sounds like people working at a construction site building pieces of metal, but it's almost more than that, right? Like this is humanity's next step into something so much larger, the moon, Mars. This is something that needs to be well documented, and I don't know. There isn't anyone out there with like really good microphones, just specifically, getting like parabolic mics or whatever, and just like specifically looking in at like one little worker. What does it sound like? What does it sound like? I don't know. So like that's like one thing that's really been eating on me. I have a couple other ideas similar to that, where it's like there's this kind of content that I want to be making, and not necessarily news breaking. There's tons of people who are like covering all of this stuff perfectly well. Boca Chica Mary, Boca Chica Gal Mary, NASA Spaceflight and Cosmos Perspective. Like they're doing a great job covering all the news down there, as far as taking pictures and video. And I don't really feel like I can do a better job than that, right? And content creation is all about bringing value, as I think I've said many times. How can I be bringing value to somewhere? And I found it in a few different locations, but like I haven't been able to execute because it's a physicality thing. And so I'm just sitting here like dying to get down there.
The sound thing is very interesting. Yeah, I mean, you're talking to the right person about sound.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's the most underappreciated and taken for granted thing, because sound drives mood, sound drives everything. Subconsciously, it's the most important thing that no one thinks about, because they people process data. People think they process data by what they see first, but if you were to watch a lake or like a pond or something, and you're like, I want to jump in that pond, it looks relaxing on a summer day, but you can't hear anything. You're like, yeah, it's a relaxing pond. But then now you hear bubbling water.
Mm-hmm. And a bird chirping in the distance. And a little splash of water against the rock.
Imagine being like at a in Hawaii or some fictitious place that's a volcano.
Yeah, Hawaii doesn't exist.
Well, I'm saying, imagine a volcano that's dormant,
mm-hmm.
but sound tells you that it's not, because you can hear rumbling. For example, sound drives decision as well, and the idea of capturing sound is very fascinating. I used to take a boomstick. This is a very true story. I used to take a boomstick outside in nature and just record nature in San Diego because I would find my little pockets that weren't infested with humans and had just natural habitats and stuff, and I would capture, you know, and then little bugs and stuff. Like, I would just try to capture sound. And the bigger picture was I was trying to get B-roll for something, but part of the B-roll is you also need to get I'm spacing on the word, but you need to mic up a spot and record the ambience for about a minute to 5 minutes, so that way you can put that in your timeline, and it fits the because it's sound based, it fits the mood throughout the whole time of that single shot. So I was filming something, I was outdoors, but we were going to kind of improvise where we're actually closer to the city than we wanted to be. So I would have to go up into the mountains and record sound out in the mountains. So when I put it in the timeline, when you saw the shot, what it looked like, it sounded like I was further away from civilization than I actually was. So, but then I was just interested in just like getting sounds of wildlife and stuff like that. And it makes all the difference. It does make all the difference. So you just asked a question I about it, and I was like, oh, what does the sound of rockets being made sound like? I have an idea, kind of, but no. When I was at Fremont, I can hear cars being built just on the other side of the wall, which was interesting because then Drew said something where I was just like, whoa. Like, it was very meta. He goes like, those machines right there are building more machines or something like that. And I was like, so, but it was true. So I was like, oh, so this is what it sounds like to have Teslas being made. And then I had my Model 3 with me, and I'm like, look, I brought you home. This is where you came from, you know? So that's a very interesting observation about, what does it sound like over there?
Yeah. Because a lot of the content that's coming out of people who are covering it very well visually, they have $20,000 lenses that they're using to, zoom in with nice, f-stops and long focal lengths and even extenders on top of that. They're using this very professional video gear and camera gear, and their work the work that they're doing is amazing. But a lot of the audio that's coming out just kind of seems to be scratch track audio, where it's kind of just
interesting. The
audio that. Oh, are you reframing yourself?
No. I'm still centered.
Okay.
Disregard me.
It's like, I don't have to fix that in post too.
Nope. Something was bothering me that my head is still centered, so don't you worry.
Cool. I'm glad you were thinking that through. Yeah. So I don't know. It's like that is something that I am legitimately curious about. Like, as a fan who loves everything that's going on down in Starbase, like, what does it sound like? Besides just like the scratch track, like, could you imagine if you had
what does it taste like?
You know what? I should do a Talos of Food episode, the ground, an ASMR Talos of Food episode of the ground in Starbase. Tastes very sandy.
Tastes like sulfur.
Oh. I hate sand. It's coarse. It's rough. It's irritating, and it gets everywhere. Yeah.
And you wonder why Padme's going down a path I can't follow. Yeah, screwed it up from the offset about flirting. So, anyway.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I need to obviously talk with you about like microphones and stuff. But I was looking at some like parabolic dishes that were like $30 that I just plugged my lav mic into, and just sits right on top of my camera. And I think a parabolic dish is probably what I need, right? Because I'll be across a road, mostly looking at stuff being built across the road, and parabolic mic focuses stuff, right?
Yes.
Oh, do you have anything to add about that, or?
The way you were talking, the inflection sounded like you were still adding on to it. So I was letting you finish.
No. This is a question?
Oh yeah. Okay. So what overall are you? What's your audio intent?
Yeah. So my audio intent, I guess, would be to do a few things. One, I really love sunrises and sunsets, and especially the sunrises down there are absolutely gorgeous. So are the sunsets. They're just on point. And there are a couple videos that are like, Mary does like a sunrise video just about every week, and, sunset video when it's pretty, and that's fine and stuff. Something that I would like to do is kind of, more regular live streams of sunrises and sunsets down there. even the mediocre ones that aren't necessarily the grand ones, and being able to combine like some audio component to that, like a crispy audio setup with that, I think will kind of help increase the production value, but then like be able to bring something else to the table. And another thing that I would like to do, I'd listen to like those 10-hour white noise loops for a long time. I think I would, as a space fan, I would like to listen to a 10-hour focus loop of just listening to Starship being built. That'd be kind of cool. Just like put it out there for an entire day and just let it run. Like that'd be kind of fun. So I don't know.
Depending on what your budget is looking like, there's workarounds. Okay, so
let's start there.
there's workarounds and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
In reference to a sunrise sunset scenario, when I record a time lapse, I do quite a few different things at once that happens. Nature time lapse, not like the New York City skyline time lapse. Though I could probably do something with that because I think I have enough data on that. Well, anyway, so I'm gonna give you one of my secrets. It's not a big secret. I think this is a known technique, but here's something that I do that a lot of people subconsciously don't realize that I do.
Okay.
I will record like a regular video recording of something. And then that becomes my time lapse if I choose to fast forward it, because the thing about Apple,
fast forward.
Yeah, I don't like how Apple always mitigates the length of the time lapse to be faster or slower to still fit within a certain few seconds. Yeah. You'll always get somewhere between 5 and 10 seconds, regardless of how long you record it, because they will speed it up. And I was like, I want that control.
Yeah.
So in the more manual sense, I will just prop up something, hit record, and walk away, get away from the camera, just where I have eyes on it, so I can be like, all right, it's still good. And I definitely put it in a position where it's, and this is strictly iPhone talking here. I would put it in a position so that I know that the mic isn't going to pick up, and all that stuff going on. Assuming I have the setup right with audio not getting clipped or winded or anything like that, and everything's stable, and I'm now filming something, and then it's done. In post, I will fast forward it, but before I do, I detach the audio. I fast forward it to the speed or the length that I want, and I still keep the audio in lifetime normal speed. Okay. So what you see is a waterfall or running water moving very quickly, but you hear a soft, trickling that's happening. I actually have an exact example of this that same day I was filming or taking photos. I guess I was filming too, but I showed you a photo last time about 2 different perspectives of a tree. That same day, I found a little running creek, and I filmed audio of that while also staying stagnant, and I was trying to get like a long exposure of the water to make it look smooth.
Oh, wow.
And so I did stuff like that, but part of it, I got the audio of little creek water just dripping through trees and rocks and going through. I was like, that's so relaxing. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm going to use this audio for something. So now you're going to see like a time lapse. You would see like a time lapse of the water moving pretty quickly, or an overexposed shot while the water's still running. Excuse me. So why do I bring this up? Because if you're going to do sunrises and sunset, what you're capturing is that early morning life is waking up for the sunrise, right? And you don't want to fast forward, a bunch of birds that are going really quick and then it's done. You want the early morning of peacefulness to still be elongated while you're getting a sunrise. I'm not saying speed it up to where it's 50 times faster, but if you're recording a sunrise in live time, you might want to speed it up at least, maybe 2x speed, or enough that you can appreciate the
movement that's happening.
It breaking at least the horizon and then coming up from there while still maintaining the audio.
So I'm sorry. The idea would be to live stream it. I'd bring my computer and Sony setup. I'd live stream it at whatever bitrate the hotspot can support. Not every morning, but more mornings than not, and evenings as well. And have that as like a live stream. Record it on the Sony on the SD card, probably in 4K, to allow me to keep that quality, the full duration, 30, 40, 50 minutes, and then process that in a few different ways, post the full 4K version, by itself, unedited, and then so if people just want to enjoy this nice long video, they can, and then do exactly what you're saying here, do the speed, increase the speed in post, and keep the audio. Find the most interesting pieces of the audio, and then put that together as a 1 minute, maybe 30-second video that would go up. And then also the other thing is like there's a lot of pieces of content that are being created around Starbase outside of me. People are working on documentaries and short films and even just like documenting it for like historical purposes. And I don't know if you've watched the Apollo 11 documentary that CNN put together. I don't know, about 2 years ago. Do you remember that? Anyway,
it sounds familiar. I don't know.
Basically, what they did is they dug through like old archive footage and they found hundreds of hours of never before processed like film from the Apollo time frame, and they like recaptured this digitally in 4K because it's a film, it's a very high quality. And so they're able to do this in 4K, do a bunch of post-correction, AI stuff to make it look beautiful. And they have like, I don't know, it's like almost a 2-hour movie. But the first hour is all before the launch of Apollo 11. Obviously they're splicing in footage from the entire program, so it's not accurate, but it's a story that they're telling. And probably about 60%, maybe 70% of the first hour is literally just background noise. In the background. Like there isn't like some, narrator telling the story. It's just what does a room full of engineers working sound like in the 60s? You're hearing the computers with the magnetic tape things go around. You're hearing people murmuring in the background. You're hearing pencils. You're hearing, people banging their chairs around. It's this very immersive experience that I, as a viewer, am like, wow, this is so immersive. Why is this so immersive? First off, it's the 4K HDR footage of like one of my favorite time periods ever. And then it's also like this immersive soundscape that they made that allows me to just get sucked in that much more. And I want to be able to provide that archival level audio for the space community, being able to say, hey, this is out there for all time in 50 years when they make the new documentary about how Starship got started. I want to have that audio be available to those people in the future. Just create this immersive experience. And so part of that, the other question for you is, how do you do stereo or surround sound audio? Because I know a few times when I'm dealing with files that I've gotten online, the downloads or whatever, not something that I've made, it'll have in Final Cut, it'll have 5 channels inside the little audio bar thingy, like when you're talking, it kind of goes green. What is that called? I don't know. Instead of just the 2. Normally I'm used to left and right channel, but somehow you get 3 channels. Or 5 channels. How do you do that? And is that like, how does that work? Because I want to capture stuff in that kind of quality.
Okay. Like, are you asking how to set that up in Final Cut?
No, like, do I need new mics? Or I have no idea even what that's called. Is that surround sound or? So
now we're getting in the realm of spatial audio stuff, right?
Ooh.
And you want to get
sounds like a feature Apple should make, spatial audio.
Yeah,
branding.
they didn't come up with that. That's a VR term. Yeah, no, that's been around for a while.
Okay.
That's terminology that's used in AR, VR, and MR.
Mixed reality
sectors, mixed reality words, a combination of the two. The spatial audio is was used exclusively for that, in the sense. These restorations of old videos and stuff seem to be very popular lately. I see something on YouTube now where they'll take old footage of New York City from 1916,
and you need that audio component to really ground the
and
scene.
Somebody puts audio in there, and they make it 4K at 60 frames because they use certain technology to now make it smoother, and then they found a way to stabilize the image, so then they got what they wanted out of it. And I'm like, I'm in New York City in 1916. Now, granted, there was no audio back then like that, so they did their best to replicate it. But the way they have hooves of the horses walking from one side to the other of your ear, so
you hear it, and it moves from
gone.
left to right.
I mean, so the short answer to that is it's a panning technique. But now, if you're talking not surround sound, you're talking about. We will have to talk more, just for the sake of not getting too technical right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk more. We'll talk more offline on it. But all this is possible. But granted, it would be artificial. If you want to try to actually capture something that has the capability of doing that stuff, there are, to my understanding, special dedicated mic. You can't use like audio from like an iPhone that's a stereo audio recording where it's just left and right and have that be everywhere else. If it can't capture where it's at, you would have to manually manipulate that. There is equipment that can capture multiple things in a room, but
is there a way to synthesize that in post, like split a left and right channel into a surround sound channel?
So how it's done musically when they set up mics in a studio room for like drummers, they have a mic that's next to the kick, something next to the toms, the snares, and you have all these things, and it all gets fed into a single input.
Okay.
But they also have multiple tracks listing for each component of it, which then you have some things coming in the left channel, right channel, and then that's how they're able to make things sound like in front of you or behind you, because they had multiple mics recording at once. So one way of doing it is just getting more than one mic, and then you have the data to manipulate that way. But ultimately, you can make it happen. But if you're trying to give that immersive sound, you're going into true audio engineering now at this point. Oh, no. And so now it gets very, very, very nitty gritty. You can an assignment. Brandon, for example, he was going to school for Art Institute at one point and for audio engineering. And so this is before his time at Apple. And one of his assignments, and other people that went to the Art Institute that did audio engineering told me of this assignment. So I've heard it many times. Your homework is you have to take a commercial, strip all the audio, and you have to recreate every single part of the commercial by yourself. True audio engineering, and that's your project. That's like almost your final exam, so to say, in some capacity. But that's one of your homeworks is you need to actually recreate everything from bag open. He did like a Doritos commercial, so the bag opening, the crunching, the birds, and the ambient noise, and all the now. And you could do it in a way that everything's like there's something in front of me, there's something behind me, up, down, doing all that. But now we're getting into true nitty gritty like audio engineering realm. For a simple point and shoot, I think there's a mic. I've be honest, I haven't looked into it like that because that's not how I'm going to approach it when it comes to using spatial audio. I'm going to individually for ambient noises that's going to blend into music, that's going to blend into either voiceover. I'm going to record everything individually, one thing at a time, and I'm going to use that data to make it spatial. But it's also synthetic. It's not live time. To do something in nature, there might be a mic. I wouldn't be surprised why there wouldn't be, and maybe that's a point and shoot equivalent. Otherwise, if you wanted to do something off of the gear that you have now, there's a lot of research and homework you need to do in regards to the capabilities of what you can manipulate Final Cut to perform for you on that sense. It is the short answer is yes, it's possible. It's not easy.
Okay. Good.
The easy way is to get a new mic and kind of just set it up. And it's one of those mics where kind of like the 360 camera where you set it down and it captures all the data. Imagine you have something like that would be for audio equivalent. I'm paraphrasing, but it's basically like that. I know stuff like that does exist, but
we'll have to talk about that offline. Yeah, I guess like the other idea I was having is like it's kind of a road in Boca Chica, right? And so if I had, you have trucks going by all the time, and like if I had mics placed at 100-foot intervals or whatever down this road, you could create like a really expansive soundscape with that, right? Like hearing this car and like the detail, not just like a left and right channel, but I don't know, more spatial. Now you're talking spatial. You could easily have something going from left to right channel, and that's something even your iPhone can capture. And that's what 50s stereos did with records. So that's so it is possible. That's easy to make something sound like it's coming from one side and moving to the other, and that requires no post edit if you wanted to make it authentic. I think iPhone 8/10 is when they did
they did surround
Stereo.
audio recording. If not, maybe 10s. But the point is, phones we have today, iPhones that we have today, are capable of doing it. That's easy. If you want to capture a truck, for like you that
Yeah.
example you gave me, that's an easy thing. But if you want to make it sound like it's behind you, now we're moving into spatial audio stuff, which is at that part. I don't think it's honestly. I don't think it's that hard. I think you're going to start manipulating some audio data that you're trying to keep forefront that might be moving or it might be compromising the process. But the truth is, I don't know. I have not had the opportunity to tinker around like that to give my own analysis on it. But just kind of applying logic to, not logic to application, but like common sense to the audio realm. If I'm trying, if the data I have has stereo recording already, where our truck is moving from left to right, and I want to now move that to behind me and keep the other data in front of me, if I'm shifting things to behind me, the logic in my head says that things that are in front of me might move like above me or below me. It might manipulate it that way. That part I don't know, but it is possible. Yeah.
Well, sounds like I have a little bit more research to do and maybe some offline conversations with you. Figure it all
for sure.
out. But yeah,
Yeah.
It's like there's so much to do down there, and I guess at the end of the day, like I feel like I don't want to waste any time, and every day not down there feels like I'm wasting my time. But at the same time, it's like, what am I doing to improve myself, to be more ready? What am I learning? What am I mastering right now to help me when I get down there? You know, I know being down in Starbase, it's I'm not going to be as comfortable as here. I'm not going to have a whole studio set up. I'm not going to, have the office with the desk and the cube. Like, what things am I learning? What tools am I learning to that will help me, I guess, in the future? And I think that's, I don't know if you saw those tweets, my little tweet storm there for a few minutes this afternoon. Kind of like, don't regret not doing anything. You don't want to live with any what ifs at the end of the day. You don't want to end up an old man filled with regret, waiting to die alone. And I think part of that is hopping on those dreams and doing what I want to do sooner than later. But also, like, I feel like I need to be improving myself. It's like that's where this audio thing's coming in. Like I want to conquer audio.
Don't jump the gun and do something though that's gonna backtrack you. Don't take one step forward and that causes you to do 3 steps back type of a thing. So as long as you're being efficient with your time, I mean, don't feel like you're missing time. I understand though the time precedence of you wanting to get down there while things are still early. So I understand that time precedence of it, but don't bite off more than you can chew, in the sense that you can manage. Like if you end up going down there with all this stuff and you get overwhelmed because you weren't expecting more of it, and you end up wasting your time being down there instead, and you're just going to have to default on something that's a last minute fallback plan, then that time leading up to it was already not well spent. So be realistic with what you're able to do. I know you want to have like a full-fledged, like, how can I put this in front of you in the most seamless way where you're standing right in front of it? How can I make you me when I'm down there? I know that's the thought process. I mean, I feel people would say just video recording would have been enough. Other people be like, oh yeah, just capture the sound. Why not? So be like, oh, do some AR or VR capturing device with some 3D camera or something. And you have some type of not map, but I'm spacing on the word. But it's the sensors that map out everything surrounding, so that way it can give you a live projection. That too, yeah, LiDAR sensors, yeah. So
too bad my iPhone 12 mini didn't have it. I knew I should have gotten the 12 Pro.
But your iPad does.
No, I sold that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, back when you got the mini, you weren't thinking about. I don't think LiDAR would help in this situation.
I don't think it would help. No, you can't get that close, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think LiDAR is only good for 20 feet or so.
I don't know what we have LiDAR for in these phones right now. I think they're obviously they're setting the foundation down for something bigger in the next 2 years maybe, but it's cool if you just would have waited. But if you're trying to drive sales because iPhones are stagnant, then I don't know. This idea of LiDAR,
it's a gimmick.
It's a gimmick. I feel like it's a gimmick as much as the hardware in an iPad Pro is right now a gimmick.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, I posted that podcast today, and about half the comments are people saying, "Yeah, it's so dumb. Why did Apple kill iPad OS?" And then now the other half of people are like, "Oh, it's always an iPad. Why are you expecting me?" I'm like, "Oh boy, people are divided on this one." Woo.
I look forward to seeing Drew get into the comment section and fight the good fight.
Yeah, I haven't been that brave.
Yeah. You know what's funny?
What?
Yeah, screw it. I'm just gonna say it here. I don't care.
Do it.
There's
We're an hour in. No one listens to the show, so you're good.
Yeah. Talking about people and fans and braving things. I've noticed that ever since I've kind of became more exclusive to just Tailosive now, I don't get the same trolls and hate anymore. And I was thinking about that the other day. There's certain people that you and I have talked about that that we may or may not have banned or blocked or whatever. and I realized that the camp that they exist in is not that of the Tailosive. They go over there and they try to provoke something, but our lack of giving it attention or feeding the fire has killed it all off. So
and also the people who are involved in the Tailosive network in general are also actively against that kind of negativity and anger. And so like I see tons of, I call them angry comments, but they're just people disagreeing. Like no one said a bad word in the tech podcast comments. No one started screaming at each other. There's lots of LOLs and ha-has at the end of these long paragraphs. So I understand this is all happening in good faith, and I know there's lots of pockets in the tech community where people say people are not nice.
but the trolling, I mean trolling is inevitable, but at the rate of it, it's not in this community that we're involved in, and I can't fully blame the content creator of whichever outlet they're from to say that they cultivated it fully. Like maybe at once upon a time some of these people were enabling it or provoking it to drive clicks and stuff like that. But after a certain point, the comment section becomes a life of its own. But with that said, I don't get hate anymore, and it's not that I'm looking for it, but just like I'm boring, you know. If you stop, and me being very clear, saying like, stop coming to me if you expect me to drive drama, like it's not gonna happen. I'm boring for drama. That's not what I do, and it's like obvious. I think it's kind of clickbaity in the sense that like I could do it. I know how to do it. I don't like doing it. It's not fun to me. It's not what I'm passionate about. No. But some people like that stuff, and you are the people you keep.
Yes.
And I've noticed since reassessing my work relationships, I don't have problems anymore, and I feel more at peace like today now than June of last year when I was stressing and this and we were getting weird hate from people and all these troll accounts and stuff like that, which is funny because like I know who the people are, and then when they try to brave their real handle at me, I ignore them because it's like you
stop.
Yeah, you're a child. You are children. You are not of legal age to matter. Like honestly, you know, go kick rocks. Like I don't care. You're not developed in the brain enough for me to care, and like I'm not being called, you know, gay anymore or something like that. It's like it's so childish, and I look at it and it's like this came from something obviously, but they thought they can provoke these same reactions because of other parts of the community, and I'm going somewhere with this, I promise. Okay. But the hate dissipated. There's some people that will still be what it is, but like they now know, like I don't I don't acknowledge it. I don't care about it. And you brought up another good point, that the people that we have established, the more active people in our community don't tolerate it either.
Mm-hmm.
And now they just make the other people look stupid.
Exactly.
And I think we've set our own. We've made our own little carving in the tree and put our own twist on things, where the people who come to us know what to expect, and it's not the biggest thing, but modesty aside, it's something that I'm still proud of. These are the same people who went out of their way to super chat me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's something. So all that to say, where I'm going at with it is the passion of what you talk about. Like, this is now you're really focusing on space and stuff like that. I don't feel that you are going to encounter any of the same problems as what we have seen in our own eyes with people who used to attack Drew, for example, and things like that. And then we were guilty by association because of him, or because of his old friend group, or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? Like all that aside, the passions that you're driving and the audience that you're accumulating for yourself based off of your own passion, that's the common denominator for you, that people are caring about the same things, and that's what they're going to focus on. I think you have more. Not I think. I know you have all the support behind you about everything that you want to do.
Definitely appreciate that. You know,
don't feel like you're wasting people's time, because you're not. I guess that's where I'm going with it. You're not wasting. No one's gonna haha got you or anything like that. Like, you're not wasting people's time.
And I've noticed, just kind of being, you know, not necessarily a big creator yet in the space genre, because I've only been at it a couple weeks, but like, I feel like there's not a lot of the divisiveness that you find in the tech community elsewhere. I don't know what it is about consumer tech, and, you know, some of those subgenres like, you know, Apple Sheep or Leaks, or heck, even Tesla can get kind of angry at some points. But
yeah,
I don't think, I actually know, I haven't seen people legitimately get angry at each other during space stuff. Like, we all might have our disagreements on SLS, the big over budget government program, versus Starship, but at the end of the day, like, it's just like an inspiring goal that's like, it's hard to hate. It's hard to be angry at anything space related. You know, it's like, okay, there's going to be those people, I guess I should preface that, they're going to be the wackos who, you know, want to be that angry, but I've found the general space genre to be just about as anti-excitement as, or anti, I don't know, anger, whatever we're calling this, as the Talos of Network has been, and just like those core groups of fans. Like, people don't tolerate it. Like, creators and the fans in space stuff, like, they don't tolerate it. Like, if you're gonna be angry and mean and spammy, then you're getting banned. I mean, like, everyone's here to have a good time, and it just is not as tolerated as it is. So I don't know.
And
really
leading by
why,
example. No, leading by example plays the biggest role, because if you come at it with a mature mentality and set your expectations clear, like, you can't control how people respond after that, but what you can do is say, here's my stance on it, and but just have your expectations understood, like, very easly clear, like, this is what I'm about. If you wishy-washy, if you retract on things all the time, if you look like, I don't know, chasing the trend, or what they call clout chasing, or whatever, stuff like that, that people aren't stupid. They know what that is. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. I guess where I'm getting at is that, like, I know you are going to have a successful space channel if you pursue this. Hopefully. As passionately as you are now. You will, because, listen, Drew covers EVs and he doesn't have one, and it still works.
Yeah.
Partly because he has a fan base, but he's also got people on the EV stuff that don't have nothing to do with Apple stuff. They don't care. And likewise, you don't have to be some type of space engineer or it's not rocket science. I make that joke a million times. To be palatable, to be understood, to be interesting. Because if you can convey what excites you, you're gonna get people a little bit more addicted about your excitement, your own excitement. And that's I think that's half the battle. It's just you got to have a personality. You can't be a dud. But that's not even true. I know people who are duds and they still work just fine because they just happen to have the right slide up on that video or something. Or the algorithm comes back 10 years later and then blows it up. I've been getting a lot of 10-year-old content lately. I'm like, man, this algorithm's weird.
Right.
So weird. I go to the comment section, it's like, I see I'm not the only one who's been hit by the glorious YouTube algorithm, and people are like, I see you guys in another 7 years or something like that. It's so weird when not chasing algorithm thing is, you know, maybe it's like a fine wine. Maybe you're supposed to make some of these things and maybe, just maybe, it will blossom later on for whatever reason. That's how I like to view my skits. That some people will watch a skit of mine, and they'll be like, "Yep, that's still funny and relevant right now because it's universal." And then there's that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it will. Space is the new tech. I mean, it's gonna grow. People are gonna get more excited about it as we have more. I think we talked about this last week, but like with more commercial stuff happening, it's gonna grow. So I know if I put the time into it, I'll definitely get something out of it. But it's not necessarily the something out of it that I'm even looking for. Like at the end of the day, I care less about social media. Social media is just a method of sharing ideas and experiences, right? And at the end of the day, I could care less about my Twitter following numbers or the stats on my YouTube channel or any of that. It's very meaningless in a real way. Like I still go to the grocery store, it's not like it changes anything about you, or shouldn't. Some people do let it change themselves, but I will never let that become the goal. I guess the audience is never, like, getting 1 million subs is never going to be my goal. I'm not one of those people who wants to chase the numbers or the clout. And so going into this with the mindset of I want to have an experience and I want to be able to share that with other people, whether or not they want to watch, is, in my mind, the purest form of creativity. Whether I'm printing stuff out in a magazine and mailing it around like a weekly newsletter, or I'm making YouTube videos, it's just the idea of sharing stuff with others. It's not about the numbers for me. It's not about the Social Blade scores. It's about having a good time and sharing that with people.
You know what gets me excited right now?
Ooh.
Outside of music, outside of all this other stuff, architectural design.
Ooh.
I've gone down a deep rabbit hole about not even just like the obvious like homes and stuff like that, just architectural design in the sense of like fitting an aesthetic theme of like maybe a cluster of buildings, so to say. What started the thought process was like, and it's so little in it, but it went down quickly from there. Is that I looked at Apple's old one infinite loop address, and then I was like, all these buildings share, like, these are Apple buildings because they're old, but they're there, and like they share a common theme. And then I was like, does the new spaceship ring have the same thing? Yeah, I can kind of see what's going on over there. And then I remember looking at Qualcomm's headquarters down in San Diego, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, these are Qualcomm buildings. So then the thing of like theming a bunch of buildings together and it has a certain aesthetic to it, inside and out.
SpaceX has that too.
Yeah.
So, like, their launch tower in Cape Canaveral is black steel structure. It's what you saw Bob and Doug go up over the summer and all the crew missions. It's like that very utilitarian, but like black and futuristic almost. They're building the exact same thing in Starbase with the high bay. It's still very skeleton metal framing, and they painted it black. I'm sure they're going to paint the launch tower down there black at some point, unless they're going too fast to get a paint job, which might be a case. But Yeah, you're totally right. Now that you say that, there's this design aesthetic that comes with a company's vision for what they want to do. Like Apple, right? Very simplistic, minimalist, beautiful design, beautiful. Would love to live there or be visiting.
It has to have it serves if it's here, it serves a purpose.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it has no business here.
Exactly. And then like the Qualcomm buildings that we've driven by that, right? Like it's that
Yep.
kind of big black office building
Yep.
looking thing that says Qualcomm on it.
Yep.
Like
That's
that
the one.
Feels like Qualcomm, right? Like Qualcomm
Yep.
isn't like they're doing great things in the chip design. I'm not gonna say bad things about their product, but their company ethos is not enthusiastic and they're not front and center, right? Like Qualcomm's
Yeah.
the company that makes the chips that go into all of the stuff that people use. So people don't think of Qualcomm when they're holding their Samsung, whatever we're on. People think of Samsung. And so
Yes.
Qualcomm, they're kind of the behind the scenes people. Therefore, their building is very behind the scenes. And
It blends in, but you also be like, I can find that building. I know what
Yeah.
that is. And then I look at universities as well. SDSU, for example. Every time I drove by, it's like this is all SDSU stuff. This belongs to the university here. When I get closer down to La Jolla or Point Loma, and I see USC, I'm like, yeah, this is like these universities have a certain flair to it as well, which is exciting. And on the negative end, I got a negative side to this as well that kind of irks me, which was also what kickstart the thought process for me, is I go to certain houses and like my wife's family, for example, we'll go visit them, and they have what looks like bars on a window that can bring you to a patio, but it's nothing but just aesthetic for the sake of being aesthetic, but it doesn't serve a purpose. I look
Yeah.
at this is taking up space.
Yep.
Like, you had to pay for
interrupting my
that.
view.
Yeah. Now you have this fake balcony on your window that doesn't need to be there, obstructing a rather clean view then, and I had to pay for that? It would be my thought process. There's certain things I look at old 1990s design where I'm like, that had no business existing. And then I look at things that are trying to be trendy just for the sake of being trendy, and I'm like, that doesn't really serve a purpose here. But then people who are more urban, they use the steel frame and the wood. It's very simplistic with materials, but it serves a purpose because it's holding the structure, and here's the walls, and here's the floor, and then that's that, and then people decorate around it, and that's how they make it work. So it's bare and it's very urban, or it could be, I wouldn't say industrial. It's very urban, but it serves a purpose. And you look at it like, oh, this could fit in like a New York City or something like that, where it's just, you serve this purpose. So it's all in the realm of architectural design, which has my interest lately about things, which
Tiny
makes me
things?
kind of want tiny things. It makes me want to design maybe like a perfect cube of some sort.
Ooh, now this is a very interesting idea. We should talk about that right now.
No, we're out of time.
Man, we're gonna have to wait till next time, per the usual.
But something about like this perfect cube and everything that exists in it, everything has a purpose. It serves a role and a purpose in it, and that is the most important part about the integral design of said cube.
To be continued, maybe sooner than later.
Yeah. Well, hey everybody, thanks for checking this week's little sit down, talk about inspirations and passions and what has us going this week. It's been fun as always, Nick.
Likewise, Mr. Randy. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. Hopefully you have a good couple weeks, and we'll see you next time whenever we record one of these. Bye.
Bye. See ya.